you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
I'm not going to lie. I'm fangirling a little. Oh, I'm so excited you're here. And I also want to mention your Becky video made my day yesterday.
Me too.
I was feeling a little sassy.
Oh, that's a little shocking.
That's not like you at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, it was just, it was that one person and that one comment
On that one day.
And I was just
after
like,
the right amount of caffeine.
Yeah, not today, honey. I'm not letting it go today.
Hello and welcome to Table for Five with No Reservations. Take a seat at the table for a fresh, sweet, salty, tart, and pleasantly bitter conversation.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for taking a seat at the table. Today, I have Jen Dunn.
Hi, everyone.
Jamie Ramos.
Hello.
Kimmy McIsaac.
Hi there.
Tabitha Cabrera.
Hello.
And I am Rachel Flanagan. And today, we have Eileen Shaklee with us. Hi, Eileen.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here today.
We're so happy to have you. If you want to introduce yourself to our listeners, that would be awesome.
Well, my name is Eileen Shaklee, but you can call me Mama Fry. I write the blog and run the page Autism with a Side of Fries. I started the page, believe it or not, 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yes, when my son was just a tiny little 8-year-old. He is now a much taller than me 18-year-old. He has autism. I think that makes him awesome. And I just enjoy sharing our stories with everybody because I find the more you talk about it, the less scary it is, the less intimidating it becomes. And, it just makes life a lot more enjoyable.
We agree too. I feel like writing has built such a community for us. And in addition to that alleviating the stress, it's fun to have somebody on your feed like your page, Eileen, because you have this comedy about it. You have this lighthearted, you have this sweetness and this salty that you show. And I appreciate that because a lot of pages can go tears and celebrations only. And you make all the room for the big feelings all around all of it. I love it.
I try to. I had a friend of mine that said to me years ago, you should do your own page. And I kind of dismissed it because I thought, well, there's so many out there already. But I'll be honest, I didn't really follow a lot of them because I found them kind of be like a downer. It was just, and I'm not saying there's not a place for that because let's face it, it's not all sunshines and rainbows and unicorns, but I couldn't live life like that. And I didn't want it in my newsfeed like that. So I was kind of in a place where I'm like, well, I'm going to just do, I'm going to do my own thing then. I'm going to be me. And I had a friend that encouraged me. She's like, yeah, do it. Write it like you write your Facebook updates. Because what you see on the page is what I always wrote in my own private page. And she's like, write it like that. So she was right.
But you are right, though, because people, and I'll just quickly, if I write a kind of a sad or a hard story, that's okay. I can put a funny line up and it's I just lit the world on fire. So people really everyone lives the hard. People really don't want to read or hear about the hard anymore. I'm finding, it is part of our life, but.
I would even just think only, it's just so nice, such a breath to have a witty but informational page like yours. I love the balance.
Thank you. I try my best. Don't always get it right.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your son and kind of what brought you to diagnosis and sort of what his first few years were like way back then?
Well, a long time ago, now that it's been going on for so long, believe it or not, before I had my son, I actually worked in the field of autism. I worked as a job coach and a vocational trainer with teenagers on the autism spectrum and adults. Worked that job for many years, had my son. When my son was 1 year old, I decided I was kind of done with working with that field and I wanted a break because I was burning out. I had 1 year of stay-at-home motherhood, and that's when I started our special needs journey. So I wasn't out of the field for as long as I thought I would be. I wound up being sucked right back in, but on a different capacity on the other side of the table as a parent before I was being a professional. So he was diagnosed pretty much around age 4, but we just started early intervention around 2. It's never an easy process with autism. And it's so funny. It's the most frustrating thing I often get asked by noobs is they want to fix it right away. As soon as they're on the start of this, they're like, okay, what do we do? What do we do with that panic feeling that they express? And I totally get it because as a parent, you see something with your child that's not, I don't want to say right, but not what you expected. And your natural inclination is to fix it. and to do it as quickly as possible, whether it be, feeding them, making sure they're not sick. Do they have any other issues going on? And you do that ABCD check of trying to fix it. And there's no quick fix with autism. There's no set of rules that's going to work. I mean, what worked for my kid is not necessarily going to work for any of your kids that are sitting around this table. We all know that. That was the one thing I really had a hard swallow for me in the beginning is like, holy, this is not going to be easy. This is not going to be quick. I'd like to think by now I'm much more mellow about it, because like once you get a couple of years under your belt, you're just kind of like, all right, we'll just throw whatever sticks at the wall. Like, okay, let's
by very little.
Exactly. Just like, whatever. Okay.
What led you to that diagnosis? Did he have language, or, I mean, you obviously would probably recognize it.
Would you
more than the
believe it?
newbie?
I didn't really. It was more of a case of he wasn't talking, and I was getting the old standby of everybody telling me, oh, well, he's a boy and boys talk later. And, oh, he was an early walker, so he'll be a late talker. That's I heard that all constantly, including our own pediatrician, early walker, late talker. But I had another relative in our family that had gone through the process of early intervention and was diagnosed with apraxia. So I thought, oh, maybe this is what you're looking at. And, we started that process, and it was clear that was part of it, but it wasn't all of it. But through time and going to various different pediatricians and doctors and specialists, it became more clear that that's where we were headed, into the autism direction. And once you're there, you're just like, all right, I guess this is where we are. As I always joke now, because I hear these kids coming out like, well, my kid has a level 1 autism or a level 2 autism. Like, we're so old, we were like, PDD autism, which was pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise
too, we also got that diagnosis. It was like PDD/autism.
Yeah. So whenever someone says to me like, well, what level is he? I'm like, under the umbrella of autism. I mean, it's just, it's kind of frustrating in some way just to say it that way, but most people don't know what you mean when you say level 1 autism or PDD autism or anything like that. So that has its own challenges. But, he's made strides and he's worked very hard. I always admire my son because he goes out every day into a world that's not made for him whatsoever.
Yeah, I say that all the time.
And he does it every damn day with a smile. So how can I not keep going, because he does? And that's always my main motivator. Just like, well, it doesn't knock him down, so why should it knock us down? So
Wait, I noticed, or I didn't notice, you actually wrote about it, and you started showing his face. Was it just last year, right? Because you had never, you did side back, you never showed his face before.
I started, ironically, like literally right before the pandemic shut down in 2020, because as he was getting older, I realized there weren't a lot of pages or blogs out there with adults with autism. And we were getting to that point. And I'm like, well, this needs to be seen. And I can't do it always with behind his head or, like that. And the only reason why I ever kept his face hidden all those years is because he was little. Like, he was a little kid, and internet, some people are a little nuts. I mean, some people do crazy things like write about their families and post it online. It's like me. So
we like those kind of crazy. We like those kind of crazies.
So I was always a little worried about it. But when he got older, I was like, no, this needs to be seen, and it needs to be seen fully. And I have a teenager, so sometimes he wants to be shown and sometimes he doesn't want to be shown. So he gets photo approval. As I always say, I'm like, is this okay to put up? Yes. Okay, I'll put it up. But I felt it was very important to show it. I wanted to show what happens when it's not these cute little viral stories of these little kids.
Yeah.
They grow up. All those kids in those little stories that you share in your newsfeed, like, oh, isn't this sweet? Isn't this wonderful? Well, they all grow up. And here he is, facial hair and all. That I had to make that switch. It was a little scary, but I'm really glad that I did.
Well, I think it helps too, because, autism doesn't have a look. So it's showing people like, hey, the autism can look like this. Like, you wouldn't know. And so I think it's great. Yeah.
And he's a bit of a ham, so he kind of enjoys this now.
We've all got a slice of ham. Most of us have a ham.
But I'm glad that I did it. It was a little scary at first, but for a while there, I wasn't even using my name, which is where the Mama Fry moniker came from. I can't even tell you how that happened. Somebody on the page just started calling me Mama Fry.
Oh my God. When you called us in the Becky video and you go, well, I know some little fries will be coming for you, or whatever you said. I about
Yeah.
died. I'm like, I'm
Family
that fry. I'm that angry, hot, fiery red fry.
It's
I'm coming
true.
back.
Like, I love and fear the people that follow my page because
Yeah.
I don't want to mess with them. They're like, when they get angry and they band together, it's like I don't want to be on the receiving end of that. But you know, I love my Fry fam, and I think there's no better way to call it, the Fry fam. So
I don't know if I've actually told anyone at this table, but Eileen, your page was the first autism page I actually ever found. And when I took my daughter to Disneyland, I think she was 4 the first time, I messaged you and you gave me a ton of tips on how to get her on the plane, how to occupy her on the plane, and all of the, you actually recommended a harness for me. Yeah, you were the first page with autism I found.
oh my
Way
God.
back 1,000 years
Oh
ago.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I'm glad that helped.
thank you.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're
yeah.
welcome.
I mean, I expected you to take us to Disneyland and just help me the whole time, but you gave me some fabulous tips. So I really
Guy
appreciate
fries
that.
never showed up. What?
Yeah. Here's this one. Yeah.
Well, where's my ticket? It never came. I mean, I would have been.
Yeah. You know, but it's like people, you know, I reached out like, how do I do this? Because I didn't
Yeah.
know anybody else that had a kid with autism. And I stumbled across your page. I think it was a name. I mean, because it's, I think the only thing in autism our children have in common are French fries,
Yeah.
you know, and chicken nuggets, but you know.
Yeah, people come for the name and then they wind up staying. I think it's the French fries. So
All about the fries. It's awesome. Window fries.
the window fries, as
Eileen,
my
where do
son
you
calls
live?
them. We live in the Jersey Shore in New Jersey, right on the right by the beach. So
Yeah.
I love your accent.
oh, thank you. I didn't know I had one, but apparently I do.
You do.
That's great. I'll have to play it up.
We have a certain feeling. We've been doing a case study for a couple of years. We have a certain feeling that if you get real fired up, it'll get real thick.
Oh,
That happens to my homegirl Kim. She's like
Yeah.
from Southeast suddenly when she's angry.
It's the best.
I can go from zero to definitely like, are you talking to me?
Oh,
Really
there it is.
So,
Oh my God, Eileen.
absolutely.
Well, can you tell us, Eileen, a little bit about adult services and what is or more likely is not available and what you wish could be in the space that fills that hole, you know?
Well, that's what we're looking down towards now. He's 18. He's in an out of district placement for school because kids with autism and that have IEPs are in school till they're 21. And that 21 is coming quickly because yesterday he was 8 and now he's 10 and now he's 18. So I'm not looking at like, oh, well, we got a couple more years. I'm in panic mode now because it needs to be, it's going to take forever to set up. It always does. We're in the process of, we just went through guardianship, which that was fun. Having to report to a judge in a court and having a lawyer assigned to your son and getting paperwork that says your child is incompetent. Boy, that's really what a joy that was. But it was a necessary event that we had to do to protect him. And you know, we have to do these things. We're in the process of doing Social Security now for him. I had to sit through an interview for that where I got asked wonderful questions like, is your son married? Has your son committed any felonies? I'm like, well, gee, I hope not, you know, things like that. That was terrifying in some ways. But because of all these things, we have to set it up. It made me more and more aware of what's not out there, which is programs for kids like my son who want to work, that want to do something meaningful, that want to feel like they're contributing to society, and they don't want to be put in a daycare situation. I'm not knocking programs that provide care because they serve a purpose for a type of population that needs it. My son would not do well in one of those types of programs though, because he wouldn't be doing anything and that would drive him crazy. Right now where he goes to school, they have a pretty decent job training program. He's out 4 days a week at different places. He works at restaurants. He's worked at bookstores like Barnes and Nobles. He's stocking shelves in retail spaces. So he's getting a variety of opportunities. But once he turns 21, I don't know where he's going to be. And that's the scary part of me as I start choking up about this. I got involved about 2 years ago with a local organization by me called the Monmouth Ocean Foundation for Children. Even though it sounds like it's just for kids, they are now branching out into building an adult program that will be for people like my son that can work, want to work, but still need supports. and still need education opportunities to help them finding appropriate vocational placements with job coaches. And that's the case of right now. We're in the process. We have the building. We're working with the architect now, and it's
That's
it's a lot of
awesome.
Fantastic.
we're fundraising like hell. Any of you happen to know Oprah, let me know.
We're looking for her number.
We can write some letters for you.
They have a lot of programs in New Jersey, but it's a case of long waiting lists.
Yeah.
And I could put him on a waiting list now. Maybe he might get something by 21, but it might not even be a case of in the area that we live in.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm doing the work I'm doing now. And as I say, I'm selfishly motivated. I want this program built because I want my kid to go to it.
Yeah. We just did an adult series, and most of the parents that we talk to about their moving from childhood to an adult, no matter what category they land in, as far as like significant needs versus different programming that they could participate in, there is nothing for anyone, it seems like, as far as placements and job vocation, and there's very limited resources once they hit 18.
And the market for the jobs for people working with our types of kids, that's the other part that's a real crisis situation, because the pay is horrendously awful. And we're expecting these folks to care for our kids that have special needs, but they're getting paid a horrible wage. It's not livable. They're truly doing it because they want to. It's not a case of they're doing it for the money, because there is no money in it.
It's extremely hard job. Like,
we
have a hard time with one of our kiddos. So like, they have large groups that, there's a lot that comes with it. The turnover is horrendous.
Yeah, the stress level is just crazy. And it drives me crazy as a parent because the turnover is nuts. The pay is awful, but they're also, I don't want to say, and these people are unqualified, but they literally will take whoever can pass a background check.
Yeah.
And a pulse. And as a parent, you get a little scared about that.
Yeah.
I am the secret ninja of social media stalking. If you're working with my kid, I will find you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Rachel for that.
Oh, okay.
And I can tell you, like, it's so different. My daughter's in a day habit. I don't know the names of her people that work there. They don't give you the names. I'm lucky if I get a first name. And now since COVID, like, you can't even go inside. So it's like, if I happen to get a note written that day in her communication book, which is also doesn't happen every day. And like, my daughter's nonverbal, so it's not like I can ask her. She can't tell me anything. So it's,
no, I mean, that's with my son. Like, he's verbal, but it's a case of he'll tell me the birth dates of what president it was today, as opposed to what he did today. I don't know if he's had a hard day. I don't know if another kid's bothering him.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It's a mystery to me. So that's a real issue. And, as someone who did it, I totally get it. I wanted to do the job because I love the job, but it's not always feasible. And I can't blame any of the turnover rate, because the people have to leave because they just either can't do it because they're burnt out, or they just can't afford it.
Or the benefits are awful for those people too. So it's like they have to go find something else.
Yeah. I mean,
it's been hard because we've tried to even supplement like one lackadaisical pay with another, like have our foster worker be paid by our waiver as well. And you can't, so that it could be more of a living wage. You can't overlap. You can't think creatively. It's just like yeses, nos, and this is data sheet. There's not people behind social work anymore. And I feel like that's a devastating part about, like, our kids pay the price of that, Yeah.
And the education that they need doesn't stop at 21. Like, they still need those supports.
Yeah.
That's why they need programs that are going to be based with education. Like, what we're hoping to do is not only provide vocational opportunities, but have like a dentist come in and work with the clients about what a dental visit is like. Have a hairdresser come in and work with the clients, because like the sensory issues will continue. They do not stop at 21. That's something I've also noticed that's kind of like drives me crazy around this time, especially now with holiday shopping is coming up. And I'll have different companies that want to send me things to promote. And I'll be like, okay, great. But this vest you've sent me for my 18-year-old son, fit an 8-year-old. Do you make stuff for adults? Oh, well, we don't. Well, guess we ain't working together then. And it's like, I don't know how many times I have to say it to them, to these companies, like the adults need this stuff too, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just a children's disability that drives me nuts. It's just like, oh, magically all our children at 18, 21, 22, 23, they're supposed to just be like, it's insane.
I'll shout out a company because they actually listened to me. Was Harkla was the group, and they made a sensory sock in an extra large size. And one of the owners was saying to me, he's like, "Oh, do you like this would be big? Like you would sell this?" I'm like, buddy, I guarantee you, I post this on my page, you're going to get sales." And sure enough, he wrote me later. He's like, "OMG, you were not kidding." And I'm like, "What did I tell you?"
Yeah. All those companies out there, listen to this, make things for adults too.
Exactly.
We would like the Harkla fella to call Disney and make sure that princess dresses can be made outside of a size 10.
Yes.
That's what we need.
I know some people have gotten creative and they've gone onto Etsy and they make their own shops, but like, you know, sometimes that's like, you ever go on to Etsy? That's like a billion things trying to like, you know, all your eyeballs at once, like, you know, trying to find things that are going to work for our kids. Like, I can't understand these companies. Like, hello, you would have instant money, because I'm at the part of the year where people are going to start asking me, what does he want for the holidays? And I get that panic look like, oh my God, what do I tell them?
I'll tell you something that we found, Eileen. Sensational You is a brand that we've worked with as a sponsor, or I can't recall. Yeah, she's sponsored. She is extraordinary, and they just launched adult sizes for their sensory hoodie, which has like magnetic closure, a heavier hood with like thicker ear pads by the hood.
Wow.
And then it has a sleep mask within the, like a visor almost, that turns into a sleep mask.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's exactly what you did with Harkla. Is she said they started with just kids stuff, but they were getting so many requests for adult. I mean, my daughter's 12 and she wears an adult, medium, and large. So even the kids stuff, I mean, a lot of places I'd want to support, I can't, because they don't come in her size.
Yeah.
But Sensational You listened and they did it. So it's fantastic.
Okay. I know what I'm looking online later for.
Yeah, she's like,
I'll text you the link after.
That would be great. Thank you. No, that would be wonderful. But like, you know, yeah, we're getting to that point of the year where I'm like, okay, everybody, you remember that stuff that you've already bought them? Buy it again, because, you know, he's either broken it or we've lost it, or, you know.
Or we take cash. Cash is good too.
Cash works. Exactly.
Well,
we love therapy visits paid for.
It's so mind-blowing to me. Like, I mean, for those, like my kiddos are, Nora's going to be 4 and Nixon's 6, both autistic, and thinking down the track, like, I think as parents to kids with disabilities, we're always looking ahead because we get on these wait lists for 17 years in order to get services. But it's interesting to hear all the different perspectives of this drop off. It's pretty much what it is. It's 18, 20, 19, 20, 21 in whatever state you're in. There's a drop off and then nothing. It's just literally mind blowing. We need some like reform, some big movement reform to like provide services and supports in whatever capacity, whether it be dollars or programming or whatever. So how can people support your project? Do you have a place that you can go, since we're talking about support and money?
Yeah, I will gladly take anybody's money. Monmouth Ocean Foundation for Children is on Instagram. It is on Facebook. It is on Twitter, and you can link to our website there and make donations through there, whether you do it through PayPal or snail mail, as my mother still likes to do it. And I keep telling her, Ma, send it by e-file, do it. And she's probably listening to this right now because she always listens to podcasts when I'm on them. Hi, Mom. Anyway.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Grandma Fry.
Grandma Fry.
But you know, so that's what we've been doing. But yeah, it's exciting. But it's funny, now I'm doing it, I find that I keep finding different projects or groups that are coming together, and they're all these parents that are finding them.
Honestly, isn't that the only thing that ever made change?
Yeah. Like, you know, I'm not saying that it's always 100%, but it's a lot. And it's kind of crazy to me. I'm like, why is it always the parents?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it only the parents that notice that all these kids are going to turn 21? That's what's mind-blowing to me.
Well,
it's just
we've talked about, again, where it feels like they just think our kids are at 18. Hey, they're good to go out into the world. And yet I'm categorizing, complain about our kids, but essentially our children will become a strain on the system because there's nowhere for them to go.
Yeah.
And there's no programs for them. Obviously, the job sector is not there for our children. So it's like, you know, they're setting us and our children up to fail,
Oh,
essentially.
there
There he is.
he is.
Hello, handsome. Hi. Like, that's a lot of aunties.
Hey, wait a minute. Do I know them?
Am I supposed to be on this meeting? But it also, we've talked about the potential, like our kids could contribute to society.
Yes.
But they just need the opportunity to do that, and they have the potential to do things. And it's just like, why let them just sit in a day hub somewhere where they're not doing anything and they're just living off the government when they could be contributing?
Absolutely. I want my son to pay taxes. That's always been my biggest thing. And, you know, his handwriting is not so great. So I've always, like, my joke has always been with his OT, like, just let me know he can do his signature, because I want him to be able to sign a tax return and endorse a paycheck. And that's what I want him to do. Like, that's it.
That's great.
But that's something that I don't think government seems to pick up on. And, you know, we just had an election, and beforehand I was telling people, like, make sure you vote, and don't just vote for the big ones. You got to vote for the lower ones too. Like, who's in your town, who's going on your board of ed, who eventually, you know, who's eventually on your mayoral, you know, does your town do a mayoral committee where they all take a turn being the mayor? Like, who are you voting for? And I've had so many parents like, oh, well, I'm not really into politics. And I'm like, you don't get a choice.
And you want a waiver, you're standing in line for a waiver, and you don't care about politics, get on the cart.
You don't have a choice. You are in the disability community. You are a political point. So you have to know these things.
I had this guy come to my door the other day, well, a couple weeks ago.
Watch
Yeah, he was like a public defender. I was a public defender in our community. I wasn't a public defender here. Anyway, besides the point, he came to my door and he was like, do you have topics that you think are important? And I just started running down this list.
You asked the wrong person.
He expected me to like start just funneling at the doorstep all the things he should consider in his campaign.
Why don't you come in for dinner, sir?
And I was like, is your email on this document that you're giving me? I can shoot you a follow-up email, sir.
Got an email.
I'd be like, wrong house, mother. I mean, pardon me. Sorry.
We have whistles, it's fine.
Okay, sorry. That was just,
We're used to it.
We have a Rachel at the table. We got you.
We got the bomb a lot over here. It is true though, like the reform and the change is going to be from the person who has an intimate connection to our community or some kind of personal connection, I think. I mean, because the passion comes from that place. And most people that I find that have understanding for my kids have some background or connection to the disability community, which brought them to work in this area or whatever the case may be. So we need to find the legislator that that can.
And it's really important on us as parents when we say advocate for our kids. This is one of the things we need to advocate for, like to make these conversations happen.
Yeah.
People who aren't directly affected by it.
Yeah.
They need to see how important it is. Oh, hello. There's another one popping in the background. I love this.
Hi, Nora B.
But the biggest example I found was like when we were in the height of the pandemic and the lockdown was going on in my town Facebook group, there were a bunch of moms that were going on like, we need to have a mandatory summer school so our kids don't regress over the summer. I was like, welcome to my world, sis. Now you know what I've been like always going on about needing extended school year, as we call it. This is what we have been fighting for our kids and making sure that they get this. Like, and she was like, oh, you know, like, and then she got it. Like, then she clicked and got it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking, oh, now you've got a similar experience. You can see where we're coming from. You know, I know those parents were freaking out about their kids, and rightly so. But I don't know about all you, but I was losing my mind daily seeing what my kid was going through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're still
It was
paying
like,
for it.
welcome.
Yes.
We're still paying for it. Here we are.
I was
And the
definitely,
pandemic was a light that I think a lot of people experience what we experience every day.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that.
Them having to find a way to teach their kids or give their kids things that they need because you couldn't get it from anywhere outside. Things weren't available for them to do recreation, sports. Like this is the stuff that we have happen every day of our children's lives. So it's like you dealt with it for 4 months. I've been dealing with it for 24 years. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
And like,
I found that I came off like bitter Betty at the time when I would hear my friends, sorry if you're listening, complaining about being stuck at home. I said, oh, it sucks, doesn't it? not being able to leave your house. Welcome to the world of special needs. And they were like, oh, so this is, you can't, so this is what it's like. I'm like, this is what it's like every day. The pandemic didn't change that. It just added to that. So you're right. I think on so many levels, people kind of got a small taste of kind of our everyday lives.
I think the pandemic was sort of the great equalizer, but the problem now is that they got this flavor of what isolation feels like, or finding not the right fit, and all of these different things. Wait lists, for instance, all the stuff closed, the inaccessibility to things. But what's happened since then is the mental health crisis that is, and the hiring crisis that is, and will continue to affect so many of our kids for so long. Like the proverbial, they get to return to work, schools are going, things are happening, and we will be paying the price of what did happen for decades. I don't think the mental health system will recover, period, to what it was before. I mean, I don't
think so either.
And it wasn't great to start with.
No.
You know.
I know we've gotten so uplifting here, Eileen, but one of the things that we really try
so cheerful.
One of the things that we try and bring to our listeners is that validation of that, what they're going through or what they were feeling, are feeling is, they're not alone in that. But we also try and sort of bring tips and tricks to the table. We're coming up on the holiday season. Do you have any tips and tricks to get through the holidays for 18 or 19 years that you've been trekking through?
I mean, other than a bottle of vodka?
Or the nog?
Spike nog.
Spike nog.
I think kind of piggybacking a little bit on the pandemic was a great way to show what sometimes our holidays are like, which is low key, small, and know your limits. We always joke with the kiddo when we go to my in-laws, we're the first ones there, because if they say it's 2:00, we are there. 2:00, and we're like, let's go. We're eating. We're sitting down for dinner. Okay, next dessert. Let's sitting down dinner. Okay, we're out. We are the first ones out the door. We keep it on a tight schedule. We try to leave when we're on a high, kind of a thing. Leave wanting more. And it's very important to know when you need to go and when your kids had enough. Don't stretch it out because Grandpa Bill has to tell you another story. You just tell Grandpa.
Oh my God, you know our Grandpa Bill?
Oh, well, I'm sure. or Aunt Sally is going to make a comment about you and what your kid's not eating, or bringing your own food for your child because you want your child to eat something. Just, if you got to go, just go. If you don't want to have that holiday with all those people and just say, hey, you know what, we're just staying home this year, you're perfectly entitled to that. Thanksgiving does not have to be 25 people around a table. It can be just your little immediate family. And Thanksgiving doesn't have to be a turkey. Thanksgiving can be a turkey sandwich.
It can be fries and chicken nuggets too.
Absolutely. It will be my son's. My son will have mashed potatoes from our Thanksgiving dinner with his fries and chicken.
Yes. I like that double down. He's my kind of
double
man.
down.
Double the potatoes. So you're speaking my language. I love potatoes.
At this point, my son should be sponsored by Ore-Ida because he's
or Idaho, just straight up.
Straight up, come on, sponsor a gal, would you? But stay small. You don't have to have 25 people over. And if that's another thing, sometimes it's easier to be the host because all their stuff is here. And you can tell somebody, come on over. Every year I host Father's Day, and we do it here because we have a pool. And my whole thing is we're going to order pizza. Everything's going to be on paper plates. Here's the cooler. There's the red Solo cups. We keep it super casual. Everybody has a great time because it's all stuff he's comfortable with in a spot he's comfortable in. And, everybody.
And he's 40 steps from his bedroom when he's sick of people being in his pool, right? We did a PSA last holiday season for families, our listeners, to share to their families. And so we were trying to explain sort of all of these things to our listeners' family members, that it isn't just your sister-in-law, Kathy, that's oh, my kid's autistic, so we're super high maintenance. It's autism at the holidays. And so we were trying to bring that message, but it's fun to hear the validation from a 18 years in mom that's stay home, do whatever you need to.
Yeah.
Because honestly, everything from wrapping paper to the Christmas tree, to the lights, to this lady's house blinks and we didn't know, so now she's throwing up in their bathroom. You can't count on all the variables.
You can't. And, even though I'm doing this for as many years as I am, like this is how crazy my whole family is. We have Thanksgiving with my family, and then we have to do a second Thanksgiving with my husband's family on the same weekend. I don't know why we do this, but it's one of those things. They've always done it, so we just do it. Right now, we're having a hard time trying to pick a date of what day we're going to do the second Thanksgiving on. And I've literally just texted before. I'm like, y'all have to tell me now or we're not coming, basically. And it's just not to be mean, but it's just like, come on. You all been around him for 18 years. You don't know how this works by now.
Yeah,
We need a date and time, please.
He's
He's got a calendar and on his phone, he needs, the info to be typed in. And if we can't go, then we won't go. And we've had years where we can't go to things and events we just didn't go. And I'm just like, suck it up and deal with it. If we're not there, oh well.
Yeah. It's just certain holidays that our kids, maybe your kid likes Halloween, but my kids hate Thanksgiving. I mean, they're not about it at all. They hate the smells, they hate the food, the noise. They're like, what is this BS? Sitting down at the table eating this weird food. They don't like it. So
yeah, that's kind of my son's philosophy on Thanksgiving is, so we're just eating dinner? Like, don't we do this every day? Like, what's different about this? So
yeah. But you can pick and choose your holidays too that work for your kids. Maybe
absolutely
you or your family can participate in Halloween and you stay home for Thanksgiving as a small group or whatever the case may be.
I've seen that with a lot of families, learn that just staying at home sometimes for those holidays it's just easier to keep the peace.
That's what I was just going to say. We learned very quickly that we were going to have holidays at our house. And if anybody wanted to come, they could come. And if they didn't want to come, we were still having a holiday at our house because it was just too much for her. It was also too much for her, probably us having a holiday at our house, but at least she could like go into her room.
Yeah.
If she was going to run around with whatever half clothes on, she could run around with, we at least like to have a diaper on. But you know what I mean? Like she could just do whatever she was comfortable doing, and that just worked best for us. And then when she got a little bit calmer and stuff, then we went to other people's houses. But now we just stay home, and it's really more due to my husband. He hates to be around people. It's not even my autistic child.
I was gonna say it's actually more me.
Yeah, she's fine. It's like my husband's like, I just want to cook dinner, eat, and lay down on the couch and take a nap. I don't want to be at anybody else's house.
Well, there's something to be said about being able to wear slippers in your own home, and wearing sweatpants for Thanksgiving is fantastic. I thoroughly recommend it to anyone.
Yes. Yes.
Like that's the way to do it. If you have to make that whole dinner, at least be comfortable while you're doing it.
But it is, my daughter gets very anxious, even though we're just doing a dinner at home. Like she just feels the difference, and she's almost like waiting. She knows something's happening. So she's like waiting for something. She gets like hyper alert of like, if you're moving something, if you're like, what's happening, but now she'll peel potatoes and carrots. She'll kind of help in the process, which she really likes. But sometimes she ends up, you could just see it that she's like, she's always just waiting for that other shoe to drop. Like, she knows something's happening.
Well, my son is like, he's doing the routine that he has in his head. Like he knows we show up, we say hello, we eat, we open presents, goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you.
And he has no problem doing that when these people come to our house and be like, all right, goodbye.
Holiday is over. See you later.
We're finished. I mean, I took him to the movies yesterday, and as soon as the credits started, he jumped up and he said, I'm finished, and like announced it the whole theater of people. I just love the way he thinks when he says stuff like that. I mean, it's just so brutally frank.
Yeah.
I love it too.
The way life is. So you just accept it and roll with it.
What you see is what you get, people.
Yeah.
To worry about, and not necessarily with my family, because they've always been great. My daughter doesn't go anywhere without her iPad, and I know people have their opinions on it. She always has her iPad going. It literally calms her, even if she's not watching it. Ironically enough, even though she doesn't like sound and noise around her, that thing can be a volume 10,000. And trying to get her to adjust that to accommodate other people would always lead into these screaming, meltdown, whatever. We had company this year outside of our family, and the husband made a comment and said, oh, is her iPad going to play during dinner? Yeah, it sure is. And you're welcome to leave the table, sir, because it is playing through dinner. So
let me tell you, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If my mom and dad could have taken the Atari 2600 out with them to a restaurant with me and my brother back in 1983, they would have. If it kept us quiet and they could pretend to be like on a date, you know what I mean? So who cares if your kid is running around with Thomas the Tank Engine playing in German, which could happen here very
Oh
easily.
yeah.
Yeah.
Portuguese is a big thing
Oh.
over here.
Spanish.
Portuguese
funny.
too.
So the way I see it is like, yeah, it'll play and you can suck it up. Or you can make a request. He's at that point now where you can ask him, like, well, hey, could you play some, Blue's Clues on there? He'll look it up for you. And then it's great because he's getting engaged and he's typing and learning how to spell. Like, it's a wonderful educational experience.
Table.
Exactly. So I say embrace it.
Love that.
Well, Eileen, I think it's so nice. We have Kim at the table, whose daughter's 26, and she's just such an inspiration. And watching Alyssa have this curve of skills, I think has allowed for all of us at a certain point of the hard or the scary moments to know that hope just never dwindles if you keep that alive. Like, it's constantly changing. Every Christmas for us has been a different problem, a different struggle, a different strength, a different thing, because it's always evolving. So it's just so nice to hear your smile this many years in, just being light about it, because I think it's important for people to know, when you get bogged down in the noobs, like you said, Eileen, it's like everybody says to you that it happens, like early intervention is what it takes to get your kid some help, or they'll catch up, or whatever the language is. I mean, there's people still using catch up language right now.
Yeah.
Oh, anyhow, it's such an intense process when you just get into that hamster wheel and you're trying to search for things and services and all the stuff, to then know that sometime in some 15, 18 something years, you're going to be settled in, you're going to be smiling and laughing again, accepting what's come of the changes, still fighting for stuff, still filling out paperwork. Anyhow, it's so nice to hear someone that has been able to transition off the hamster wheel and be okay with where they're at, find the joy. You kind of still have to have that paperwork hand down. You still have to hear the pulse of what's going on in the community. You still have to be involved. I just think it's nice to show people what further down the line looks like.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I appreciate getting the chance to show it. And I just want to let parents that have the younger ones know, like, you will get to that point where you go, oh, this is better, or I'm used to this. That's what it is. It's not even that it's better. It's you're used to it. Like, oh, this is comfortable. We're in a good spot. And then you want to hold your breath because you're like, I don't want to jinx it, because
Yes.
like, don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud.
I always say to my husband, I'm like, oh, she's just gotten so much better over the years. And she really has. But then I'm like, or have we just learned how not to tick her off?
Yeah.
I think it's like a 50-50. 50-50.
Billy says that too. Celie's only 7, but he says we're better at it. She's not better. We are better at managing it.
It is. Yeah. And, there are days where it's horrible. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Having an 18-year-old is, having an 18-year-old in the house. It's no, I can't tell if it's autism some days or just the way an 18-year-old young man is. There are days he slams the doors. There are days he blasts the music. He hides in his room. And I'm like, okay, you do what you
I
gotta
have
do.
an 18-year-old. That sounds very typical.
Exactly. So I'm, there are days where I'm just like, are you being a teenager or is this autistic behavior that I have to observe? But, I know that you can't go back. Like, you will miss so much if all you do is just sit in sadness of what you think your child should be, and you're mad because it's not that way. You're not going to get to do a do-over at, like, when you get okay with it later on. Like, I can't go back to 8-year-old kiddo. I would love to, but I can't. So if you have 8-year-old kiddo, your own 8-year-old kiddo, you have to enjoy that then, because you don't get another do-over and you don't want to miss it. You don't get it back.
I just love hearing you say that, because my son's about to turn 8, and it is this weird thing in the autism world where that feels so old all of a sudden. And I'm like, no, he's just the 8-year-old little boy. And I have to keep reminding myself, like, he's still a little boy. He deserves to have a childhood that's not pushing everything on him and not resenting the autism. So I love hearing you say that, because I'm like, oh yeah, he's a little boy. Just because I'm in this messed up world where he's aging out of stuff already, and it's crazy, but I have to remember.
No, some days he's just going to be 8, and like, I'll prepare you for it now. He's going to turn into a tween next, and let me tell you, that ain't pretty.
I have a girl there right now. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of
And
fun.
they both laugh like a witch, kind of.
It's not fun. But like I just hate to
No.
see people miss it because I think of times when I was really, really going through it in the beginning, and I think God, I missed a lot of pardon me again, my mouth.
No, we're good.
Because I was too busy having a pity party for myself. And yeah, he's not doing what I thought he would be doing at 18, but he's doing things that blow my mind every day.
Yes.
That just I can't get over him. But there's still other things that we do that I just think are just like ridiculous. Like I had to register my 18-year-old son for the draft.
Oh my gosh.
There is no, mind you, if there was
fine, come pick him up. Watch this.
Yeah, I tell everybody this, no one believes me, but it does not matter. You have to register for the draft as an 18-year-old male in America. If there was a draft, obviously he would be disqualified. Yeah, but there's a part of me that laughs when I heard this, and I had other parents tell me, like, no, it gets better. Military recruiters are going to call your house now, asking for your son.
Do you
Oh
give
my
him the
God.
phone?
And there's a part of me that's like, I can't wait for this to happen.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's going to be fantastic when I put him on the phone and he starts asking them, like, what's your birthday?
Actually, that's one of the things I said. Your son has a president.
Oh,
I don't want to say
obsessed.
fixation, but knowledge of every president, every birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another thing where I just don't know if it's autism or DNA, because my husband is obsessed with presidents and presidential history
Oh.
and going to different presidential houses, and like it just kind of rubbed off on our kid, much to his delight. But like that's one of the thing. Like there is the Army recruiter calling my house for my son and be like, yeah, great. You want to have a whole conversation with him about William Henry Harrison and
I would love that, please.
like here you
Set up.
go.
Please
Have
put
fun
that on
with
your
that.
page.
Record this, please.
We
In
have to.
fact,
I was going to say, record it, please.
I think you should invite him over. Let's just skip the phone calls. Yeah.
I wanted to go to the recruiter office with my kid to register, but my husband's like, Eileen, don't.
Don't do it.
Don't be sick.
I'm like, dude, it would be so fantastic to do it, but I didn't. But I'm like sitting here waiting. I'm like, come on, call.
That is so funny.
But,
Eileen, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook at Autism with a Side of Fries. I am also on Instagram, Autism with a Side of Fries, and I'm also on the hellscape that is Twitter at French Fry Inc. I don't know how much longer I'll be on Twitter, but I'm there.
A lot of fun right now.
I tell you, I'm having a lot of fun on Twitter these days. People do not look me up. It's my safe place to just tell my real thoughts.
Oh,
Stay off my Twitter.
yeah.
It's election year. It's
Yeah.
election November.
It's been interesting over on that social media site lately, but that's where I am.
And go support that futures programming.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. That's for the I work with the Monmouth Ocean Foundation for Children, and we are currently fundraising for the Achieve Academy for Adults with Autism.
Love it.
So
Woohoo!
excited.
Yes.
Thank
Well, thank you so much, Eileen.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you, ladies.
Yes. So great to
Thank
talk
you.
to you.
Thank you for sitting at the table for this episode of the Table for Five No Reservations podcast. To learn more, please read the description of this episode. In there, you can also find where to sign up for our newsletter and how to become a supporter. Join us next week for more, and while you wait, check out our content on Facebook and Instagram. If you are enjoying the podcast, please make sure to subscribe and rate and review us wherever you listen. To contact us, you can email us at tablefor5podcast@gmail.com. We can't wait to sit with you again. Bye!